Hi and welcome to this video. Today we're going to go over the creative image options within the responsive skin object. So this is an option that you can use in the ad if you don't want to code your own custom CSS and instead you want to just quickly put in some different images, change the display type and alignment, and quickly and easily create a responsive ad just by adapting this image object. So let's quickly look at an example. So this demo here is using the creative image object, and for this example we're using breakpoints to define different images at different breakpoints that are going to show different content. So to set this up is relatively simple. So again, we've already done our listener to get the init skins, and in this options panel we've defined this creative image object. So in this creative image object there are two separate objects. One is the container, which displays the outer container display values, and the second one is the image, and this is where we're defining the image source, display type, etc., as well as defining our breakpoints. So you don't have to have breakpoints in this. So if I, for instance, comment this out, and if I look at my ad again and refresh, this will not have breakpoints now, so it's still going to act responsibly because of how I've set it up, but it's not going to swap in different content or change based on different breakpoints. And as you can see, it works to a certain extent, but then once it gets very small, it's kind of looking a little bit sad. So in that situation, that's why we would use breakpoints. Otherwise, you can also just use maybe a better image that's more suited for that. There's a few different ways that you can look at it. So firstly, I do just want to point out that on the build guide there's lots of information about how to set up this creative image object, as well as all the options that you have there. So first thing I'm going to do is just go over the container. So in order to make it more clear what's actually happening, I'm going to change that background color to red. And if we go back here, this won't have any effect at first because of the display options that we've used. But for this example, I'm actually going to set a max width on my container. So this means that this container that holds this image is going to be stopped at a certain max width. So I might change that to 250 just so that I can really see what's happening. And so we can see here that the image container is still taking up the full width, but we've told it through those options that the image itself is going to be maximum 250. Once I get lower than 250, it's going to act based on the display that we've defined, which is width here. And again, so because I've got that max width defined, at the moment I'm telling it to horizontally align left, but I'm going to change that to right because under this example I want it to float to the right. So there we can see, again, it's gone to the right. And again, it's behaving responsively. Within my ad itself, I can also change different aspects of alignment and display. So the display is probably the most important aspect. So there are 5 different options you can use. You can use stretch, cover, static, width, or contain. So what width will do is it will make the image resize to max width, and the height will be automatic. So in this situation, it's getting cut off, or it's not filling the whole site in the background. To make this more clear as well, I'm going to change this to orange. And we can see that as we close, this width, it's taking up full width and the height is auto, so it's actually kind of leaving this blank space here. What I could do is I could say it to stretch. So in this case, the image is just going to be stretched so that it's taking up the full 100% width and height of that container. So if I refresh, and you can see there it's stretching. So it's not going to look particularly nice unless you've designed specifically, but if you're using text, it probably won't work very well. I can use cover, which means that the ad or the image is going to resize to fill the entire space. So we can see here using cover, it's not actually ever showing any outline because it's covering the whole space, but as you can see there, it might actually get cut off. So with the cover is actually a good example for this vertical and horizontal align. So currently it's at left, and you can see that when I resize it, it's staying anchored to the left position. If I change this to center and I refresh, if I resize it, we can see that it's actually now changing in the center. So these are kind of quick and easy ways that you can define and change the display type and how it behaves. Contain means it's going to resize with the same aspect ratio of the original image, but fit within that ad container. So now that it's at contain, it's based, because it's a portrait image, it's based on the width. So with this, we are going to see again that it won't take up the full space. And for this contain, I can now change this vertical align as well, and I might say I want it to align in the center. So if I refresh, it's now in the center, and I can also align it to the bottom as well. So this is kind of a good way as well to change content based on how you want it to display. But again, you'll see that once it gets to certain points, it really won't look very good, depending on how you've set this up. So in this case, this is why we're going to use breakpoints. So with the breakpoint is an array, and it's an array of objects. So for each breakpoint that you want to change the content, you have to define the max width. So anything below this max width will show this image, as long as there is not another breakpoint that more correctly aligns to it. So let's look at that again now with the breakpoints. So once the panel gets to a certain width, we can see there it's changed. So that is aligning to this 250, or sorry, it should be this 150. We've actually changed the image source. And if we go back as well and quickly take a look at this last one here, so again, also you don't have to change the image source based on the breakpoints. You can also just change some of the properties of it. So at the start, or anything over 250, I'm going to change this to 350 so we can see this working. The vertical align is set at the bottom, so if I refresh, vertical line is set at the bottom,